No, I thought we were yin and yang.
Oh, we can yin and yang if you want.
All right. Well, anyway, welcome back to the podcast. That was a great introduction. My name's Dan Jads. I'm joined by Alex Berry. We're going to talk about Australia because the Grand Prix season is about to start, and we're excited. And Formula One's back, and woo!
How do you feel about being back in Australia for race one? Does that give you? Is that tingles for you, or do you not care where we go in what order?
Nah, not massively. I'm not that sentimental about that kind of stuff, to be completely honest with you. I don't know. I just feel like Australia has to be there somewhere.
Yeah, fine.
But and at the start kind of makes me feel a bit warm and fuzzy. But if it has to be the first race, whatever.
Yeah. It's the first 3 race timings are unusual for people, aren't they? Like, well, I say people, the UK. With early mornings, like I think round 1, 2, and 3 before we get a race like before 9 a.m. or something on a Sunday. So,
but it is predominantly a European followed sport, isn't it? I know it's growing, but that's kind of where that kind of core fan base is. So I think that's where it kind of when people go, it's a bit weird for us.
If it's where the teams are, then we'll go with that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, do you want to give us a little table of contents, and then we've got some matters of order and admin to do. So run us through the grid for today's Would you
like me to do my Fleetwood Mac impression? Because I know you really like that song.
Is it going to get us taken down because it's so perfect that it will get flagged for copyright?
There's a good chance, to be fair. Anyway, so on the lap down starting grid this week ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, we are going to be talking about the championship. We're going to be talking about previews and predictions. We've got constructors' top 10s that we're thinking about. We're going to talk about the weather because you're adopted British, and that's what we're good for.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how Oscar's got a new contract, and he's also got burgers as well. Australia have smoothed out some corners, which may or may not make Australia a good circuit or not. I don't know. And also, we are going to be introducing the lap down Formula One World Championship, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the episode. I'm excited for that.
Yes, that has the potential to be the best thing we do all year. And possibly
we've got rookies as well from the pit lane. Starting from the pit lane, I forgot about that. They're the rookies, so we got to talk about them too.
Unsurprising that they're in the pit lane, isn't it? Where would you like to start then, Dan? Where are we kicking off?
Do you want to talk about the pit lane starters and talk about rookies?
Let's talk about rookies because there are a lot of them.
Several.
And it could be carnage. That turn 1 down. Turn 1 at Albert Park is already a little bit prone to carnage. Like it's not the world's longest straight. It's a relatively long starting straight down into what is nearly a 90-degree right-hand.
Yeah.
And we've got 6 rookies that are just going to send it from all sorts of places on that starting grid. What's the percentage chance we have a safety car lap 1 because one of the rookies went up the arse of someone else?
I'd give it a 45% chance. I think there's a great chance that we're going to see Burt Mylander early doors in the 2025 championship. And don't forget as well, you've hyped up turn 1, but turn 3 is pretty abrupt as well after another fairly long straight. So kind of feels like if we don't get a cock up at turn 1, there's an even better chance we're going to get a cock up at turn 3. So it wasn't that long ago, was it, that Fernando Alonso was upside down hammering towards the Armco barrier in the McLaren. So it could be pretty scary there too. But
I'd kind of assumed that they wouldn't get to turn 3. I just got to turn 1 and that was enough.
It's just written off. They probably stood in the pit lane and never got out. Is there any of those kind of 6 that really kind of stand out to you? I know we're gonna adopt one, aren't we? Because they're only children and we're both old. So we are in that kind of vicinity of going, okay, well we'll adopt a child, and that's essentially what we're going to do. But does anybody really stand out for you from those rookies? Anybody you think's going to have like a massively long F1 career?
I'm going to adopt Oliver. I'm going to have Mr. Behrman. I just like the cut of his jib, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he's gone about it so far, everything that we've seen with him. He's done a little bit of racing, and the racing he's gone about quite well. But he seems to just carry himself quite nicely, and then also seems to drive a car quite quick.
Unless it's raining in Brazil.
Unless it's raining in Brazil. He's also got maybe one of the better seat securities, I think, at Haas. I feel like Haas is a nice middle ground seat of... They're not super cutthroat, particularly not in the sort of the post-Steiner era. IU seems to be a little bit happier to, be a little bit cooler on it. I can see him being given a couple of years, and he doesn't need to do that well this year. No one's expecting Haas to do that well. He can have a very mediocre year, but everyone goes, well, he kept his nose clean. He didn't have the car under him, so he's not like, a Lawson or someone like that is expected to top 5 it.
Yeah.
I think he's got a chance. And he's, just an Essex boy. as well, and
Yeah.
I'm sort of almost an Essex boy. So
You can tell, to be fair, by your accent. Yeah.
No.
I suppose with him, the blueprint, obviously, Haas probably won't get rid of him because he's a Ferrari rent driver. And they obviously need parts from Ferrari to make their car go round, which is usually helpful. Then I suppose that the blueprint or the timeline for him is Hamilton does 25, probably does 26, and then Ollie Behrman steps into that Ferrari in 2027 when Hamilton decides to say thanks very much, I'm done type thing, or Ferrari elect to move on. So I think he's one of those guys that has got a future ahead of him as a rookie, and I think that's quite exciting. There are others. Liam Lawson, I think, still counts as that kind of rookie character type player.
I'm classing it.
Yeah, but he's kind of on a hiding for nothing in that Red Bull against Max Verstappen. Isaac Hadjar, I mean, who knows how many of these Red Bull junior drivers have turned in and turned out in the space of 6 months. Who else have we got kicking around? Bortoletto. I mean, the wheels on that stake might as well be square, so he's not really going to great deal of help there.
Is he is Bortoletto under more pressure almost because he is kind of Audi seat warming? Like, is that more pressure because there is a shake-up coming to that team, that there's a risk that you're almost like a rental driver in a rental car until the actual team takes over next year? I think, are they 26?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, when the regulations
is that more pressure, or does that make him the incumbent that actually Audi are still going to need drivers and they're probably not just going to come in and go completely clean slate? I don't know if it's more or less pressure for Bortoletto.
I suppose he'd look at it and kind of think, I've got an opportunity to impress Audi. I don't know I don't know how high Bortoletto is on the shopping list of Audi or not. I mean, they take motorsport pretty seriously, don't they, across the different formats and formulas that they compete in. So are they going to be happy with two guys that potentially finish 17th and 20th in the WDC or not this year? I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. The car's shit at the end of the day, and I mean, that's not going to help him, is it? The other bloke that's got a bit of a hiding to nothing by all accounts is Jack Doohan, because he's going to get dumped after 3 weeks. So, I mean, my by that process of elimination, my rookie, which again I'm not 100% sure about, but is going to be Kimi Antonelli. Young Italian lad taken over from Lewis Hamilton. I don't necessarily think that's going to affect anybody's judgment at all. I think people are going to realise that the kind of the golfing class between the two of them.
It almost helps, I think, I
think so.
And the fact that Hamilton left and they had to bring in Antonelli, it wasn't Mercedes saying we're not giving Hamilton another contract because we're going to have Antonelli. That changes the conversation massively.
Yeah.
The fact that Hamilton left, there was a free seat, and they've promoted up Antonelli, that narrative is already a better starting point for him, I think, than the other way around. The other way around, the bloke does not make the summer break without being absolutely destroyed by every corner of the internet. So
yeah, I think the other thing as well with that team is, and I don't know because we've not really seen it yet, but we haven't really seen George Russell kind of dominate, have we?
No.
He's not ever dominated a team, so to speak, and I think he's too nice of a bloke to even do that. So at that point there, you kind of wonder, is Kimi actually going to be able to take a fight to George Russell, or is there going to be a big difference between the two of them? I really undecided. And the other thing as well, anywhere in that kind of top 4 teams, I don't really know where Mercedes are going to be in that top 4 either. I mean, we could have a really good Kimi Antonelli season. He could finish 8th, 175 points or 200 points off the top of the WDC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure, but I think Mercedes will invest in him, and I think they'll probably see him as a bit of a long-term project as well as George Russell. I'm sure George Russell will probably sign a new contract before long, keeping him there for a bit longer. So, yeah, Kimi's my guy.
So we're going to keep an eye on them this season as our adopted children. So we'll track how they get on. And we'll decide whether, can we send them back to the orphanage, if they don't
keep your receipt.
Yeah. I would say Doohan doesn't need to move his stuff out, is what I would say. He can leave that there. He'll be back in a minute. Do we want to jump from there then, talking about, you mentioned Mercedes and their potential. Do we want to have a little run through where we think some of these constructors might end up this year?
Let's.
Because they're hyping it up massively in the media that it's the most anticipated season in Formula One. And to be fair, I don't know far enough back to know ever, but I know that certainly since I've been watching for the last sort of 6-7 years, yes, because it's an open field now, near enough. God forbid it might actually be a competition and a championship. So let's fire down the 10. I know it gets a little bit muddy from 5 down often because we could be talking like 3 points difference. But run me through, Dan. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
What's your finishing order for the World
here's what I've
Constructors
got.
Championship this year?
Based on not a lot of science, but
Correct.
based on about 30 seconds of prep before we started recording. But my top 5, I'll give you my top 5 first, and then we'll talk about the shit afterwards. But
Yeah.
Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Williams.
Oh, okay. We're slightly different from the start. I'm putting value in McLaren as the incumbent winners. So I've flipped those top two. I've got McLaren winning the lot, followed by Ferrari and Red Bull and Merc. So we're pretty similar on. We're agreed on the top 4 in a slightly different order. I think that Merc in 4th that's the biggest disaster of the lot. Is that there is a very strong chance that Mercedes finish 4th, almost by no fault of their own. It's obviously the fault of their own, design a faster car. But
Yeah.
like, I was putting this list together, and I went, oh shit, I haven't mentioned Mercedes yet, and I'm down to 4th already. And next on my list is Alpine. Like, we've suddenly got Mercedes touching Alpine in the Constructors Championship standings,
You got to be careful where you go touching Alpine.
because that's just how it is. Like, they've slipped to 4th, which feels like such a fall from grace, but actually, that's just kind of what's going on. But yeah, I've got Alpine rounding out the top 5. I nearly put
That's
Williams
high.
in there. I nearly gave Williams 5th. You say that's high, you put Williams 5th. But Alpine finished last year really quite strong. I know that it's a trickier sell this year, perhaps with Doohan in there as opposed to Ocon and Gasly, were a slightly more reliable driver pairing possibly. Doohan might have the start of the season of his life because he might have the fire under him and whatever. But
Yeah.
Alpine just started to show something at the end there. I think Williams will come good, whether Williams are good by round 1 or whether there's still a little bit more going on there. And then I'll roll into my bottom 5 for you.
Does that mean you got Williams in 6th by any
Williams
chance?
are in 6th, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that will be... They could almost be 5.5, 5.5 with Alpine by the end of the year, because I think that's when the drivers will start to take over a little bit as well. All that chat around, is it car or is it driver? Williams driver pairing there will be a points multiplier for them, because there will be a weekend where
for sure.
Sainz will get more points out of that car than he should have, because we'll have like a wet Brazil and he'll have a hell of a drive in the wet or whatever, and he'll tear past some rookies or something. I've given Aston 7th because Fernando will score them some points, and I think he's got a teammate as well that might race at some point. And then I've just gone VCARB, Haas, Stake. It doesn't really matter when you get down to the 8, 9, 10. They're all a bunch of wank. I put VCARB first because their car's prettiest. So they can be
It is actually quite nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Good for them. I've gone... I've gone for the V-Carbs, or whatever they decide to be called this week, in 6th. I feel like Tsunoda keeps getting better.
Yep.
And I like Tsunoda. I don't know how long or what Hadj is going to bring to the table. I've got Aston. It kind of feels like as well, when you get to like 6, 7, 8 down, you've got one driver teams as well in the nicest possible way. So I'm kind of looking at Tsunoda, then I'm looking at Alonso at Aston, then I'm looking at Gasly at Alpine, then I suppose there's a bit of a combination with Ocon and Behrman with Haas, but I think the car's terrible.
Yeah.
And then Sauber or Kick or Stake or whatever they want to be called this week.
It's going to be so nice when that's just Audi, isn't it? Just like
It will,
one
actually, yeah. It'll be-
word, short word, Audi.
Yeah. I mean, for the romantic, it'll be a shame, I think, to lose the Sauber name from Formula One. Been iconic for years, but I agree with you. And similar to the V-Carb thing, I mean, if they could just stop fannying around with different sponsors and just decide that they're going to be called Red Bull 2, then that would help us all massively.
Well, I think
wouldn't
they're
it? Because-
kind of trying to sell that they're meant to just be racing bulls now. But people
bollocks.
are now stuck on VCARB, which we didn't want in the first place, but we're now being held hostage by
Yeah,
it.
but when you had the lad at the O2 do that big song and dance for 8 minutes about the fact that he was talking about fishmongers and shopping trolley attendants in London about what they should and shouldn't be called, we're invested.
Well, there you go.
We love that content. We are V-Carb fans.
We are
Maybe.
so in.
Anyway, there you go. There's that done. Lovely.
There's
Tick
that
it off.
done.
Well done.
Oscar Piastri has got himself a new
Yes.
contract.
And burgers.
And burgers. Yes.
Were the burgers around when you were in Australia?
Not the Piastri burger, but
It's a
I have
shame.
frequented a grills before.
Okay. If because you are an Australian
Yes.
human being, if you were residing in Australia, would you make a specific trip to Grill to get an Oscar Piastri flavoured burger?
No.
No.
Grilled is fine. I'll say that. Grilled pitches itself as slightly healthier burgers.
Right. Sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, that. But...
They are better than... they're not a greasy burger particularly, but then they also going to give you chips and mayo, and like it's...
Yeah.
Your net calorific gains are, minimal.
High.
I get that burger bag, Osk, is all I'll say. Go on, son. You got yourself new contract money. Go get yourself new burger money as well. I think, has it got a black bun? Because I don't like a charcoal bun. I'm not
It does, and I think it's...
Not for me.
I think the chips are normal, though.
Yeah, not for me on a charcoal bun. I don't think it's bringing me anything, and they're usually very dry. So, fuck that off. Get me a normal one.
Contract.
Interesting one with Oscar Piastri, because if we're to believe the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, which is always a dangerous start, he's
just
now...
the news generally.
Oscar Piastri is now apparently earning as much as Lando Norris, which I love Oscar Piastri. I'm Australian. I like McLaren. I don't think that's right.
I think it really depends as to what McLaren want to do. I mean, if that is the case, then that messaging is very strong to say we don't have a number one driver.
Yeah, which has to be what they're doing if it is that they're putting them on an equal footing.
And to be fair, they had opportunities last year, didn't they, to kind of favour Lando opportunities? You only have to look back to Hungary, and they decided not to. Would or could that have made a difference come the end of the season if they'd have decided to have left it as it was? Maybe, who knows? But I think it is very interesting, and I don't necessarily know. We're never really going to know, are we? Until we get, say, 6 races into the season and potentially what that Red Bull looks like and what Max can do with it, as to whether deciding McLaren have a number one driver or not is a good or bad thing.
Yeah.
Because if Max can do what he did last year in a relatively uncompetitive car, then McLaren, I think, have to have a number one driver. They have to put their eggs in one basket, and they almost have to do it from day one. Whether that might be the case, they might be able to pay them the same and say, you're our number one. I don't know. It kind of points towards the fact that they don't have a preference, which I think is potentially wrong, particularly when in 2026, the whole grid gets ripped to shreds, and who knows who's going to turn up with a car that's going to be decent that next year. And it might take McLaren 4 or 5 years to catch up again. Yeah.
What do you think the message... And it might not send any message, and I might be reading it. He also might not be paid the same. That might be utter bollocks that the Telegraph will come up with or whatever.
Click.
Lando's been in that team since 2019 and in Formula One since 2019, and Oscar has done about 7 races from memory. But he's been, 2 years now? Just finished his second year. Is that an interesting... Lando's, the old statesman at work. And he's the old boy that's had that desk since he's been there the whole time, and he's now on the same money as this, the new child that's come in. I know they're the same age within 9 months. It feels weird. Lando feels a lot older than Oscar, but they are near enough the same age. It surprised me to see that they are on. I can understand some reasonings why. It just surprised me. I think that it doesn't surprise me they locked him down though. I think that's good business ahead of a 26 shake-up and Audi and all the rest of it. I think there's some silly seasons to come, and it's a logical pairing. But just money surprised me, if it's true.
Yeah, I think McLaren always like to be the nice people. Zach comes across really nicely. Lando comes across nicely. Oscar comes across nicely. So internally, it's probably the nice thing to do. That the two boys are on the same.
This is what we pay our drivers. There you go.
So I can kind of see the logic as to why they would do it. I think it fits their kind of ethos quite well. But what that actually looks like when it comes to on track, I think is going to be interesting. And as I say, I don't know whether they can afford to wait 6, 7, 8, 9 races to figure out as to what they want to do with a world championship this year, or whether they do actually have to go kind of full at it from day one. They might not need to. I mean, one of the two drivers might completely outperform the other one, and that might answer the questions, mightn't it? But I dare say Max is going to drag whatever car he gets underneath him up that way, and he's going to put a challenge towards whichever one of these teams is going to fight for the constructors or the drivers. Maybe they're relying on Ferrari to kind of take more points away from Max this year. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know.
Good work.
But hey, we'll find out. Okay, it's race weekend, which is exciting to say. And Melbourne is going to do some Melbourne weather things, if you're going to believe the bomb. The Bureau of Meteorology reckons it's going to be bloody hot for quality on Saturday, and then we're getting the best part of 15 mil of rain on Sunday, which, if I already thought there was going to be a pile up into turn 1 with 6 rookies on the grid, wet the whole track down, make it moist, it might just be... you know what? There's a decent chance that a stake wins, because they'll be at the back of the grid. Bortoletto's in P20. He avoids all the carnage, and then he can just keep it in third gear for the remaining 70 laps, because he'll be the only car left in the race.
Mm. By the way, it's only 13 minutes past 10. Alex has been on hallucinogenics already, so good for you.
Possible.
You know, you get those mushrooms, sir. Yeah, weather's interesting, isn't it? Like it's a bit of a bugger. Changeable is perfect.
Yes.
Because then you get a Silverstone out of it and you go, oh, yes, perfect, brilliant. But the thing is with this lot now, and the way that they allegedly dispose the water that they do, we can't actually have wet, because then the buggers don't go out. And then that does become a bit pointless. Like, you've only got to look back at Spa a couple of years ago. Brazil, how long did we sit around waiting for that to start last year? We don't want that, I don't think. We don't want torrential rain, because then it is a non-event. We want that kind of... See, but then I don't even know what 14 mil equates to, really.
Well, Melbourne is also famously changeable with its weather. That it can throw 14 mil of rain down in 20 minutes, and then it can go back to being bloody hot 20 minutes later. So I think the risk of a race impacting amount of rain in Melbourne is very slim.
Small. Yeah.
Potentially, if it absolutely hoons it down at 2 o'clock as they're doing the formation lap, you might get a small delay where we just go, just give it a second. Yeah. But it's not going to be like a Spa where it just is absolutely continual rain. But yeah, I mean, if we didn't already have enough questions to answer this weekend, first race of the season, 6 rookies on the grid, what's the order going to be? They're all really close. And then you go and throw a wet Australia round 1 into the mix. Like, Jeezy peeps, Dan.
You'll love to see it. You know what? What I like to see about Formula One when the weather comes around is I like a 15 minutes. I like a 15-minute rainstorm.
Yeah.
Because I like seeing all the nerds on the pit wall with their spectacles on, looking into their laptops, panicking and flapping around as to what they should and shouldn't do. And I'm a big fan of that. I like to see people that are normally so calm and collected, and I just like a little bit of panic going on. And
bring the strategy teams into it. The more the strategy teams have to get involved in an F1 race, I think this could be a controversial take, but the more the strategy teams have to get involved in an F1 race, the better that F1 race generally is.
Because you just want to listen to more Bernie.
I want more Bernie, but I also it's a team sport.
In every sense, he wants more Bernie.
It's a team sport. I'm trying to make a valid point about Formula One, sir, and you're talking about big boobers. It's a team sport. The strategy department is a third of that team. You've got the engineering team, the strategy team, and then the actual driving team. And I would like to see more strategy. I don't think we see a huge amount of strategy in F1 anymore, because they're too dialed in with these tyre compounds and these cars and these tracks and all the simulators and stuff that fuck their numbers up, please, by bringing stuff in that we haven't seen before.
I mean, not relevant, but do you see they put 2 pit stops in Monaco, haven't they, this year, to kind of give people something to play about? So yeah,
all about it.
Look, 15 minutes. Give me a quickie for 15 minutes. Get it wet, get it slippery, and give some people some things to think about. Other things they do actually have to think about is the Australians have been out there with their shovels and they've kind of changed the circuit a little bit. I think there's 4 DRS zones now.
So many DRS zones.
Australia, which is mental.
Bearing in mind that we go to no DRS zones next year, don't we? Don't they just rack off DRS next year?
I think I'm only on page 3,634 of the regs, so I've still got another 14,000 pages to go, so I'm not quite sure whether I'm there yet. But we've hyped up turn 1 and turn 3, but it might not be as exciting as what it has been in the past, because they've just made those corners wider. The same as turn 6 and 7, they've made that wider. That's by 7.5 meters wider they've made that.
That's quite a lot.
Basically from turn 4 onwards, I think, maybe 5 with a little lift, but it looks, in my brain, almost flat out from turn 4, turn 5, through turn 6, 7, 8. They've got rid of the chicane at turn 9 and 10, so that's just a straight line all the way through. Mm-hmm. Then you go to that absolute fast as balls turners 11, kind of little flip-flap left and right, to go into a big braking zone on the 13th, which they've made that, they've extended it and they've made it wider by 3.5 meters. And then turn 15, they've made wider as well. So I dare say the lap times at Australia are going to come down massively. They allegedly, that's kind of to make the race more exciting.
Well, there's a safety element with the turn 6 stuff, isn't there? After George was upside down last year, I know
that was his
also did with
fault.
the curbs there. Well, no, it was Fernando Alonso's fault for brake checking him into the final. In the final,
he should have
lap.
been aware of it, shouldn't he? But yeah, I don't know. There's an overtaking spot definitely in T13, but you are going to have to wait from T4 to get all the way around there before you get that opportunity. And undoubtedly, well, proof will be in the pudding, but turn 1 and turn 3, there could still be opportunities to do so. But the fact that the track's a bit wider, and the fact that obviously we have all the DRS, or all the overtakes are now DRS based as well, they're probably still going to happen. But yeah, quicker lap times, I would hazard a guess if it's not soaking. And yeah, whether it makes it any more exciting, I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. What is going to make it more exciting is we've got a new concept for this year that we're bringing it in, and we're both keen for. We don't have a name for it yet, so if you've got a name suggestion, we haven't quite worked out the branding on it yet, so that's TBD. But myself and Dan now own Formula One teams. Nobody saw that coming.
Oh no,
The problem
we didn't until yesterday.
we don't really know how contracts work, so we haven't got any contracts for our drivers, and we're just going to be renting pay drivers every weekend. And because we're going to have to borrow them from other teams, we can only have them one weekend at a time. So the idea is each week, both myself and Dan are going to be randomly allocated 2 drivers who will be driving for our team that weekend. And then after that, it's just your World Constructors' Championship setup of points. But yeah, we will have a rotating cast of who is scoring points for us. I could see it getting entirely competitive despite there being absolutely no strategy or anything other than luck involved. But I intend to crush you, sir. So,
Yeah, nice.
So we've got the all-exciting lap-down wheel of drivers, which is going to be how we pick our drivers.
Have you got a
each
team
week.
name?
I haven't got a team name yet. We'll work that out.
I've got one. Would you like to hear it?
Here we go.
It's the Danjad's Iceland Corona Kmart Racing Team.
Ooh.
In short, Dick.
No one checked that in the branding room, did they? No one ran the acronym through before they worked out what's going on.
They didn't. But that I feel is kind of relevant to
There you
what
go.
we've got going on here.
Dick Racing.
Yeah. Dick Racing.
I'll come up with my team name and I'll bring that back for Monday's pod. We should say as well, slightly new format for the pod. On race weekends, we're going to do a little before and a little after.
Probably should have gone at the beginning, shouldn't it?
Yeah, look, if people have got this far, they deserve the information. But we're going to have a little race weekend sort of preview pod, and then we're going to try and get out on a Thursday where we can before the actual weekend kicks off in earnest. And then we'll have a recap on Monday just to let us divide things up a little bit more around those race weekends. But, Dan, are you ready? Do you want some drivers? Should we get
I'm
you some
so ready.
drivers? I'll let you...
I need some drivers because I've got 2 cars.
You got 2 cars, you got 2 empty seats. I'll let you claim the first driver. Are you ready, sir?
Please.
Your
I'm
first
ready.
driver,
Give me a bum on that seat.
the Australian Grand Prix. Dick has got... Oh, you bastard! Oh, it's a
Oh,
strong
it's Georgie
start.
boy.
It's a strong start.
That's decent.
There's a little
that's points.
segment on the wheel there, look, of some good drivers. So,
Yeah. That's a
congratulations.
good area to land.
Take that.
Do 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 do.
Oh, sticks me with a rookie after you've had that. Come on now.
Hey,
Someone
there
decent.
are good drivers and there are
Someone
stinkers.
decent.
Where are we
Someone
going?
decent. Keep going. Keep going. It didn't keep going.
That's not bad.
We were getting very close to Lewis Hamilton in red. I'll take an Alex Albon to Williams. I don't think he's going to stick it in the top 5, but I'll take it.
Hey, points go down to 10.
It's not a horrific first seat, I don't think. Your second driver, Dan, sitting alongside.
Give us a good one.
George
Let's have an
Russell.
Insane driver
You're a
pairing
bastard.
day one. Oh, here we go. It's Oscar P at home. Russell, Oscar P with the burgers. Georgie Russell, Oscar Piastri. I'll tell you what, Sunshine, I am taking a big lead after race 1 of the lap down WDC danvalex.com/worldchampionship.com timed by Rolex
Please,
Racing League.
Bang someone here. I need a big... I need Maxi V, don't I?
You need a Maxi or you need a Lando.
Come on then, boys. Come on.
Dare say you need a Lando.
Look after me. Look after me. Look after me.
Oh, it's
look
looking
after
good.
Me. I can't go double Williams.
It's not. It's Liam Lawson.
Oh, by about a pixel and a half, I've got a Red Bull.
Oh dear, that is not a good start for your unnamed Formula One team. That is
an
it.
underdog team is what I've got there. I'm an underdog team. Okay, so round 1, Dan Jad's Dick Formula One team.
What a team.
So your drivers are, you've got Oscar and
I do.
George Russell.
do.
You've done well there. You've got two very
pretty
experienced
smug right
drivers
now.
in two pretty quick cars. And I've got two, well, no, Albon's quite experienced. Albon and Lawson, it's look, I think you might take Australia, but who knows? We'll find
Who
out.
knows? Hey, we might get 14 mil.
There you go. It could happen. It could happen. I don't know what
Anyway.
it was like in the wet. He's never driven a car in the rain. So, wonderful. But that's us for our pre-Australia pod for this week. Dan, if they would like to see you do things online, they can do that where, please?
Just have a little search for Dan Jads, and I should pop up, I think.
There you go. That's you. And then if you want to follow me anywhere, Alex typed that on various socials. You can come watch me play games on Twitch at twitch.tv/HeyLookIt'sAlex. Make sure you are reviewing the pod and sharing it with people, and go follow us on X and Insta and all these kind of places at LapdownPod. If you've got any thoughts, or if you're going to play along with the random driver standings this year, you can email lapdownpod@gmail.com, and you might be in a future pod as well.
Yeah.
But hey, let's
Get
go
involved.
bloody racing, and we'll see you on Monday.